Claustrophobia is an irrational fear of enclosed spaces. People who suffer from this condition tend to avoid areas such as elevators, tunnels, subway trains, and public restrooms. The fear can cause mild or severe anxiety and even panic attacks in some individuals. However, it is believed that avoiding these spaces may actually worsen the fear. So if you're looking for a safe way to conquer your fear of enclosed spaces without actually having to enter them, then this video may or may not help you. But there's only one way to find out. Hit those lights, sit back, and enjoy. A very close call. Action Adventure Twins is a YouTube channel in which identical twins film themselves on some of the most terrifying adventures out there. In one of their videos, one of the twins has a close call when he ventures deep into Petty John's cave in Georgia. At the start, both twins enter the cave, but one of them decides not to go any further due to the freezing conditions. Edward carried on alone, passing through a narrow, waterlogged section of the cave. Unfortunately, he found himself trapped, as the water in that section was so still that he mistook the reflection of the tunnel in the water as an indication that it would eventually open up. However, the tunnel only became narrower, to the point where Edward felt completely stuck. As he moved through the cave, he realized that the ceiling was much lower than he expected, causing him to panic. This video shows the explorer struggling to move forward as his back scrapes against the cave's rocky surface. He can be heard saying, "It's getting lower. I feel like I'm going to get stuck." Take a look at this.
It's getting lower. This is not good. Like, legit, to move forward, I have to dig the rocks out. Oh my god. If this ceiling even collapses like an inch, I'm squished like a bug.
The video of Edward's frightening experience went viral on the internet, causing viewers to feel anxious and scared just viewing it. Commenters likened it to the unsettling scenes in the 2005 horror film, The Descent. Thankfully, after a few nerve-wracking moments, Edward was able to turn around and dig through the rocks to find his way out. Surprisingly, he made a vow to return, but with more rope next time. Edward's experience is a reminder of the potential dangers of cave exploration and the importance of taking necessary precautions to ensure one's safety. Cave driving. There are certain places around the world that defy belief, and this next tunnel located in China's Guizhou province is one of them. It's a road tunnel that passes through a karst cave, but unlike the roads we are used to, this one is literally like driving a car through a cave system. Take a look at this. Pretty creepy, and there doesn't appear to be any lights or warning signs. Driving through that maze of twists and turns must be an uncomfortable and claustrophobic experience, especially if you are unaware of what you are driving into. The road is just 5 meters wide and 540 meters long. We'd love to know if any of you have ever driven through it. Close call. The YouTube channel Underground Explorers is linked with Action Adventure Twins, but instead of just the twins, a whole group of explorers take extraordinary risks to uncover the mysteries that lie underground. In a video they uploaded in November 2023, titled "Caver Panics and Almost Drowns," the group ventured into an uncharted and partially submerged cave located at Texas's Guadalupe River Ranch. They had cameras attached to their heads as they navigated through the intricate and twisting cave system, most of which was underwater. After a few minutes of successful navigation, they came across a section of the cave where there were few air pockets, causing one of the members to experience a moment of fear and accidentally push one of the others under the water. Take a look at this.
This is the waiting area.
I'm glad I didn't go in there and wait.
Are you going, Jacob?
Oh, he just bailed. Stop.
That was a terrifying experience, and both men were lucky to come out of it practically unscathed. It's clear they understood the seriousness of the situation as they resurfaced, reassuring each other they were all okay and remarkably laughing about how close they had come to death. Five Finnish divers descend to the depths in Norway, but only 3 resurface alive. Plura Cave is a mysterious underworld wonder that has long fascinated adventurers from around the world. The magnificent cave system has been carved over centuries by the currents of the Plura River, and divers are drawn to its icy waters, narrow passages, and mesmerizing geological formations. The half-a-kilometer underground swim leads to a colourful cave, and many divers stop at this point. However, the more experienced divers carry on swimming to reach the much deeper and riskier Steinaglophadic Cave, a treacherous and icy 5-hour journey at a depth of more than 130 meters that requires the assistance of underwater scooters. Steinaglophadic Cave is the deepest diveable sump in the world. On the 6th of February 2014, 5 Finnish men embarked on the ambitious dive to explore the depths, with the ultimate aim of reaching Steinaglophadic Cave. Sadly, only 3 of them made it out alive. Tragedy struck for Patrick Gronkvist, Jari Huotarinen, Visa Rantanen, Jari Usimaki, and Kai Kankanen when 2 of the divers faced difficulties in the deepest parts of the cave. During the dive, Gronkvist noticed that his friend Jari Huotarinen was no longer with him. He went back to find him and discovered that he had become trapped in a narrow part of the cave, and his equipment was entangled in a cord. Gronkvist tried to help his friend by giving him a cylinder of gas to reduce the amount of carbon dioxide in his system. However, when Jari was changing his breathing apparatus, he began to swallow water, which led to his death. Gronkvist tried his best to free his friend's body, but had no choice but to continue on for his own safety. Rantanen was the next diver to go through the narrow area and past Huotarinen's body. He had to make a decision whether to pass the dead diver or turn back. He decided to go forward, as it was the shorter route. Unbeknownst to Rantanen, Usimaki was following closely behind and also ran into trouble. It is believed that he panicked after seeing what had happened to Huotarinen, and despite Kankanen's attempts to help him, Usimaki also tragically died during the dive. Kankanen turned back, and finally all 3 survivors emerged from the water in the early hours of the next day. After the incident, the 3 were hospitalized with decompression sickness. The authorities closed the cave and were reluctant to retrieve the bodies due to the dangerous conditions. Although a team of British divers did make an unsuccessful attempt to recover the bodies. However, Gronkvist, Usimaki and Kankanen felt a sense of duty to recover their friends' bodies, and a large group of experienced Finnish and Norwegian divers secretly planned a second recovery operation with the help of the surviving divers. Despite the high risk involved, the team's extensive knowledge of the cave and meticulous planning helped in the successful 5-day operation to recover the bodies. The dive was considered illegal, and the group had to wait 6 months to be cleared of any charges. The cave surprisingly reopened after the recovery operation. A Finnish documentary titled Diving into the Unknown covered the incident using original footage from the rescue. Nutty Putty. You've probably already heard about the tragic demise of John Jones, and we have covered it before on this channel. But in case you haven't, we will end this video with a terrifying reminder of what can go wrong when going caving. At age 26, John Edward Jones was in the prime of his life. He was married, had a 1-year-old daughter, and was attending medical school in Virginia. In November 2009, John and his brother Josh decided to explore Nutty Putty Cave, a notoriously tricky hydrothermal cave formation located just west of Utah Lake. The brothers had been keen cavers as children and wanted to revisit their childhood adventures. They weren't alone, 9 other friends and acquaintances had joined them. The group set off on the evening of November 24th. About an hour into the expedition, John and a couple of the others decided to find the Nutty Putty Cave formation known as the Birth Canal, a very tight passage that experienced spelunkers needed to carefully crawl through. It had been years since John had been in a cave, and at 6 feet tall and 200 pounds, he wasn't the little kid who used to easily crawl into caves with his father. Despite this, John pushed on, entering the narrow opening, headfirst carefully shuffling along, using his hips, stomach and fingers. However, it soon became apparent he was stuck. He had squeezed in so tightly he had no room to turn around and no room to back out. He tried to push on, but just made things worse. He was stuck in a space that was barely 10 inches across and 18 inches high. Josh was the first to find John and tried to pull his brother out by grabbing his legs. However, this made things worse, and John slid down into the passage even further, and his arms were now pinned beneath his chest, and he couldn't move at all. All the brothers who were devout Mormons could do at this point was pray. Josh called for help, but because John was trapped 400 feet into the cave and 100 feet below the surface, getting rescuers, equipment and supplies down that far took over an hour. The first rescuer to reach John was a woman named Susie Mottola, who arrived just after midnight on November 25th. By this time, John had been stuck for 3.5 hours. All Susie could see was a pair of navy and black running shoes. Time was running out for John. The downward angle at which he was trapped was putting huge stress on his body, and his blood was struggling to pump round, and he was having some difficulty breathing. At one point, rescuers brought a 2-way cable radio into the cave and managed to lower it to John so he could speak with his wife. They were both understandably upset but able to comfort each other. Over the next 24 hours, more than 100 rescue workers tried to free John, but after everything failed to budge him, they decided to use a system of pulleys and ropes. They tied John to a rope connected to a series of pulleys. When everything was in place, they pulled as hard as they could, working in an 8-man tandem. John was at times in great pain, but slowly but surely he started to move, until he was finally high enough to make eye contact with one of his rescuers. They even managed a short conversation. John was almost out. Then suddenly, without warning, one of the pulleys failed after coming loose from its anchor point in the cave wall. The entire team fell backward as the rope suddenly went loose. Once the dust had settled, the rescuers realized John had slid right down the crevice again, this time seemingly even deeper than before. There was now no hope of rescue, and John's heart could take no more after hours of strain due to his downward position. Sadly, John was pronounced dead of cardiac arrest shortly before midnight on the evening of November 25th, 2009. Rescuers had heroically spent 27 hours trying to save him. His family thanked them for their help, even despite the tragic news. After John's death, officials sealed off Nutty Putty Cave for good. They never recovered his body, which remains inside to this day. John's family had a plaque put on the entrance of the cave in his memory, and Nutty Putty Cave now serves as a natural memorial and gravesite to John Edward Jones. In 2016, filmmaker Isaac Halasima produced and directed a full-length feature film about the life and failed rescue of John Jones, called The Last Descent. It gives an accurate and terrifying insight into one of the most disturbing caving accidents in history. So that's it for this video. Thank you for watching, and we'll see you soon for another one.